Welcome to Stay a While, the podcast that's virtual soul food for your ears. I am your host, Tommi Vincent, and each week we break bread with bold, passionate women who have faced the impossible and are still standing to share their testimonies. Make yourself at home and stay a while. Hey everyone, this is Tommi Vincent, your host of Stay a While podcast, and I am so delighted today that we have joining us at the table Jamie Miller, aka Bad Mama. Now we're gonna get into that name, Bad Mama, and what that means, because it's not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning excellent, superb at what she does and what she has accomplished in her life. Jamie is the founder of Veracity Self-Defense. She is an MMA champion. And for those of you wondering what is MMA, it is mixed martial arts. She is also an advocate for women's empowerment and safety, and she sits on the board of Women Against Abuse in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Jamie, welcome to the table.
Thank you, Tommi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, listen, we're going to get right into our conversation. And the first thing I want
Mhm.
to ask you is for you to tell us, who is Jamie Miller?
It's always a great question, right? Jamie, me, I am a fighter in every sense of the word. And because I'm a fighter, I've been able to, do the work that I am today, which is really important, fighting my way through, domestic violence, becoming a survivor, and using those experiences to fuel my journey in mixed martial arts, through my safety initiatives around Philadelphia, and just really overall empowering women and youth to be the best versions of themselves, and to provide them with something they can carry with them.
Mm-hmm. So you have something in your bio that really stood out to me. You describe yourself saying that you have a passion for empowerment through physical prowess. And prowess defined is skill or expertise, bravery in battle. And the part of that definition that stood out to me is bravery in battle. And we know that you have, a story that put you in the place you are today, with you being a survivor of domestic violence, and we can talk about that or not. But in life in general, women, people, they experience all types of battles in life. So, how would you define bravery and how that shows up in life? So, let me re ask that question. In life, what does bravery look like to you?
To me, it looks like faith, having faith, and then doing something when you're afraid. Despite the fear, I'm gonna do it afraid. That's how I see it.
Hmm. I have a personal, it's like a personal conversation that I have with myself when I am afraid. And I say to myself, be afraid and do it anyway, Tommy. And so what I do as an action item is I do what I back myself in the corner. So if the trigger of getting past the fear is me responding to an email with a yes, or making the contact with the thing I'm afraid of, so that I'm on the hook for moving forward in the thing, so that fear does not have victory over me, but really transforming that fear into a fuel that allows me to know I'm on the right track, because something inside of me is trying to resist what's on the other side. And I believe on the other side of fear is victory.
Yeah, I agree with all of that wholeheartedly. And um, just knowing the power in that, just doing it afraid, because we know the fear is always going to be there, whether we do it or not. So you might as well do it and get to the other side of it, and so that you can open yourself up to receive all the things that are waiting for you. But if you never step into that and face whatever it is you have to face to get on the other side, I just feel like that's what keeps people stuck. a lot of times as well, just in life, especially if you're in a situation where, it might be a high stakes situation, maybe, trauma related that, it's hard to make those decisions. But I think as long as you believe in yourself and you can see, you know, that, I'm worthy of this, I'm worthy of more, and then just taking control and taking your power back through stepping into the fear and facing it.
Is there a time in your life where fear had a grip on you and you were able to fight through the fear and accomplish your objective?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm afraid every day. I'm afraid to do things, every day, especially new things being in, I guess just on a new trajectory with post retirement and kind of, doing all the things I'm doing now. But yes, I would say back during it was a very critical time of my life, um, surviving domestic abuse. I had to flee my ex, and which resulted in my daughter and I being homeless, and she was only 4 at the time that happened. And for me, making that split second decision to say, like, I guess it was just God, the universe spoke to me that day and said, now you have to do this now, because at the time he was away working. And I knew at that moment that I need to call and get support from my family and make a decision, because if I didn't, I don't know where I would be today, if I would still be here. So yeah, just honestly, I mean, I know I just said, sometimes seeing ahead, we can't always predict the future, but you just have, I think it's just a belief in a better life, and belief in who you are, and knowing that you're strong. You're just sort of, maybe just buried a little bit, that but there has to be something in you that's stronger, that helps you to make that decision. So for me, I'm not sure exactly what that was, but in that moment, I was deathly afraid. I was almost crippled by fear, but I made the decision, and it was the hardest decision, but the best decision I ever made.
Mhm. I had the fortune of hearing you share your story at the grand reopening, if you will, of Amia's Place in Philadelphia with Women Against Abuse. And you shared with everyone how, in your time of, stepping into your new life and transforming your future by making that present decision of walking away from your abusive relationship, you were one of the clients of Women Against Abuse, and you had that safe haven to go to in your time of renewal, if you will. What was that like for you, standing in that space where there was a point in time where that was your lifeline for your hope in the future?
Wow, it was, even to this day, it's hard to put into words. Yeah, honestly, it's a feeling that I can't really describe, but it's just a feeling of, like, wow, I'm still here. I'm still here because of the place I was standing in, all the things that were available and provided to me in those moments that I needed help. And it just meant the world to me. And that's why. And I said it in my speech that there's, I mean, forever in their debt, right? I don't feel like there's ever anything I could ever possibly do um, to, I don't know, there's something in me that's like, I want to give something back and give something more. And that comes by way of giving my time, my energy, my love, my support to other victims as well. But at the same time, I'm just like, you still feel like, God, like they saved my life. And, but I think for them, like you know, that's what they want to see. That is their only hope, is to see someone get through the other side, and to just live the life that they deserve and live wholly on their own, free from abuse. But, because not everybody, you know, I mean, we don't have to give back to the community. But I feel like a lot of people, and, who are survivors, feel pulled to serve and to give back. So, but not everybody has to do that. So I think for them, it's just to see someone make it to the other side, and just to live, yeah, like I said, live wholly, live a better life, and just to be happy and free.
Hmm. It was truly a powerful moment. Just being someone sitting in the audience and having an opportunity to witness your strength and sharing your story, and then the ability for your daughter to see her mother standing in a strength that surpasses any words of description. But she recognized that it was your courage that not only saved your life, but it saved her life. And I was just sitting in the chair listening, and I was so proud of you as a woman, and myself as a survivor, just seeing how now you've taken that pain and have shifted it into purpose, and you're doing tremendous work through the organization of Women Against Abuse, as well as in your own platform of making sure that women are empowered and they're able to tap into this strength. And I know that you're the founder of Veracity Self Defense. Why was it important for you to start your company in teaching self defense?
Well, because I understand the transformative power of self defense, martial arts, just moving your body really in these situations. So I'll backtrack a little bit. When I retired last year, there was something in me that didn't want to just go open a gym, right? Just to like go open a jujitsu academy. Like I wanted, it was really important, I should say, that for me to be able to merge my martial arts experience with my advocacy, and that's what it was. And I was sort of already on this journey of teaching self-defense for women, but it was also important for me to keep it very like community driven. So I'm in partnership with law enforcement, various nonprofits, and other community partners as well, because I also want to create a space that's easily it's accessible to anybody. I believe that anybody should learn self-defense, but self-defense really just cultivates not only just your you know surroundings, your awareness rather, but just more of an awareness with yourself and feeling empowered through understanding like the power you do possess and understanding like when and how to use it. So I essentially, yeah, just take my, my jujitsu experience, mostly because it's made for like the smaller opponent. And there's a lot of great practical self-defense skills that we've learned through jujitsu that are just really incredible for especially like women and youth to learn as well, because it focuses on technique and leverage versus power and muscles. So I thought that was really important as well to incorporate it. But yeah, overall, yeah, like I said, sorry, the transformative, just the journey and the power that you gain from learning that. And then for me, actually, when we were still living in Amia's place was when I started training again, because I was already on my martial arts journey before my relationship. So 6 years prior, and then eventually putting myself on the back burner because of my relationship and never pursuing anything for myself. It just part of taking my power back and part of my healing journey was doing things that I loved, and that was training. So like it got me out of bed every day, and all the things that I gained on the mat, I was able to carry with me off the mat, and it helped me power through everything I needed in order to get through the endless court hearings, just feeling stronger when I would facing my ex. Because there's a point where I was terrified of him, to have to see him. And then I noticed that shift in myself was like, I felt I was standing a little taller, like I could look at him in the face and not feel afraid anymore. And that I was like, this is mine now, like my life on my terms. Like I am my own person and you don't have control over that. And I think as having all of that, as well as understanding forgiveness through that, it also gave me the strength and understanding that I needed to forgive for myself and for my daughter in order to like fully move on and move forward, just to strip myself of anything that he, I guess, could still have control over me, even though I still wasn't with him physically. It, for me, letting go of all the resentment, all the pain, the anger, just everything that I guess harbored that had to do with like the emotional aspect of it. Forgiveness allowed me to let that go, and then I don't carry that with me anymore. It's gone. Sure, there are emotional aspects to that because as a survivor of trauma, it never goes away. I just, we've become stronger and we learn how to manage it better. And having the understanding and the awareness of that within ourselves, it doesn't control us anymore. It's part of us, but it doesn't control us or dictate the rest of our lives.
So Jamie, let's go back to the moment where we know that you snatched back a piece of you when you really started to engage back into MMA. It was a personal endeavor for you to really reclaim that part of your life. Not only were you successful, but you became a mixed martial arts champion. And so there was this moment that you experienced inside of the ring or inside of, what is it called? The
Cage,
cage?
yeah.
Yeah. So inside of the cage, inside of the cage, you had your hand raised in a moment declaring that you were a victor, that you were the champion. Talk us through that moment and what that felt like.
Wow, it was incredible for so many reasons because for one, just knowing everything I had gone through up until that point was preparing me for that moment. It was preparing me for that moment, and just knowing that, like, man. So I'm gonna try to backtrack a little bit. So when I accepted that fight, it was a short notice fight, but I was at a point where this is about a year after I had transitioned out of Amia's place. I was still training every day. I was just on this very like this tangent, right? I'm gonna put myself back on the map. Like I didn't care. I was training every day, working hard every day, making a lot of sacrifices, and then the call came. They were looking for a replacement fighter to fight my opponent. So she was the number one prospect in California at the time, the champion, and on the cusp of the UFC. And so my coaches thought I was a little bit crazy. They're like, "Do you want it?" They're like, "We're not sure, Jim," because at the time I was only 1-0 at the time. Nobody knew who I was. Like I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Wow.
I did not care. So I felt like I was ready. Like I knew I was. I had something in me that was like, say yes, take the fight. Like I knew what I possessed, the power I possessed, and I just needed to unleash. And so my teammate and I flew out to California, and yeah, I went in there and knocked her out the fourth round. And so it wasn't just it was a win, but it was in the way that I won. I knocked out this champion, and I still had like knowing in that moment when they put the belt around my waist, it was emotional for me thinking about my daughter that, I'm showing her, you know, by giving yourself grace, believing in yourself, pursuing your dreams that you can achieve anything. And that was always important for me. It's still important for me now to lead by example and to show her those things and remind her of those things. And so, but just knowing that moment changed, um, it led us on a new chapter, I guess you could say. And but it just, yeah, it meant, yeah, so many things as far as like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I just felt just so powerful and happy, and just knowing that I was also setting an example, not just for my daughter, but also for other survivors as well, that you don't have to be, defined or labeled by what you've been through. That kind of, I spoke on that a little before, where, it's part of us, but it doesn't have to define any part of us either. So I think that it was nice to sort of break through that barrier and like kind of like shatter the glass ceiling, so to speak. And yeah, it was just really a really cool moment for sure.
Yeah, it's something powerful when you were talking about the moment of your victory. the decision was not left up to someone else. It didn't go the maximum amount of rounds, and people had to score you to determine if what you did equated to victory. It was a decision that you in your process and in your skill, you were able to knock out your opponent. And that makes me think about life and our ability to take the decision out of other people's hands and just decide for ourselves, what does a life of victory look like for us when we're living, and what decisions can we make that we will personally step away from the situation, or step away, knowing that I know I am the victor in this situation because I did this on my terms. And that is a part of courage that we all are entitled to, but it's not always easy for us to tap into, because a lot of circumstances are set up to where we are beholden to what other people say, what other people decide for us. And so that's a big deal that you went out that type of way. And you've already, that's what you said, but I just was processing that moment, and I'm like, that's pretty powerful within itself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, it's like that plays into, well, shouldn't say play. It's directly related to the fear that we talked about, and part of being fear, having self doubt, especially in these moments. Like, I didn't have to take that fight. Of course, I was scared. You don't want to fail. You don't want to, especially on such a big stage in front of thousands of people, and then it's streamed on UFC Fight Pass, which is MMA's largest streaming platform. And so it was like there was a lot of pressure there as well. Like, I didn't have to. I could have let the fear stop me. I could have said, like, even though I believed in myself, I was still afraid, 100%. But yeah, just stepping into that and stepping into your power. I felt that going into the cage was like, all right. I felt like I was home. I'm like, all right, it's you. It's like you against you, and like you've done the work. You've put the work in to be here, and you deserve to be here. And I think just like allowing myself to accept that I deserve to be there was really a powerful moment for me as well.
What does that work look like? Like, what is the training of an MMA fighter? And in your position, what was that? What did that training look like?
Ooh, a lot. It's a lot of sacrifice. I mean, it's a commitment, like anything else. If you commit, if you want to, if you have a goal, yeah, you got to commit, make sacrifices, and especially in the world of MMA, there's no like, you either need to be all in or not. If that's your goal, to be a fighter and to make it to the professional level, to and then taking it as far as you absolutely can. So for me, yeah, I was all in. I was married to the sport. I dedicated my life to it. And yeah, we're training, 6, 7 days a week, sometimes multiple
Walk us
times.
through a day.
Um,
What does a day look like of training?
So in training camp, I would say, so my mornings started at 5. My strength and conditioning session would start at 5:30. Go home, I rest, and then and refuel. And then my MMA training started at 10. We're there for 2 hours.
In the
Then
evening?
no, 10 in the morning.
Oh,
I
okay,
would go
okay,
from my
okay,
strength and conditioning coach to MMA practice. And sometimes we would have like
okay.
different days for different things. So we'd have MMA training, and then sometimes it might be like a sparring session, or, then we have our jujitsu. Depending on the day, we would have like jujitsu or MMA at night and striking at night. So I was training, I don't know, I would have 3, sometimes 4 sessions a day, and then just focusing on recovering, refueling so that I can get up and do the same thing the next day. So it's just, and then on top of that, if you're cutting weight, which most fighters do, then you have to be very strategic about what you're putting in your body. I would water load. I would get 2 gallons down a day throughout my whole camp. So training camp is usually 6 to 8 weeks. I like to start a little early with my weight cuts, because as a woman, it's harder for us to lose the weight. Our bodies are just different and process things differently. So I knew my body. So took many years to get to that, but yeah, water loading 2 gallons a day, just keeping, I never counted calories or anything like that. I just kept my food very clean. No, like very little to no processed, sugars and food and things like that. Everything was very, a lot of protein, fresh fruits or veggies, things like that. So, but yeah, we're training. I mean, it's a full time job basically. So we're training, in the upwards of 7 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was thinking about when you're in the cage and you are um, in the midst of the battle. There are moments when you are in excruciating pain, but you got to keep your eye on the prize. You want to win. How are you able to mentally stay in it to win it while experiencing the pain? And just let me just kind of give you framing of why I'm asking this question. Um, because in life, sometimes we are experiencing great pain, and there is an end that we're looking to get to, but there takes that extra something mentally for you to be able to push past pain. I'm not even talking about fear. Like physically, there's pain, your heart is hurting, and you just want to throw in the towel, but you got to keep going. So, what is how did you practice mentally to get past the pain to get to victory?
That's a great question because a lot of people forget that. I mean, MMA is, when you're in a fight, it's more mental than it is the physical. So in order to prepare, I mean, for myself, I actually hired a mindset coach towards the end of my career because I had like a mental block and I couldn't. I don't know what it was exactly. It was a mental block, but it was preventing me from improving and sort of just having better performances. I There was a couple fights where I had already defeated myself, and those ended up in losses because I just couldn't mentally get past like just being so negative on myself. And so when I hired this coach, he really just helped like just reconfigure my inner dialect, how I guess essentially using positive reinforcement with myself, focusing on the positives while being aware of the negative, like my mistakes, so that I can go and fix them. And then you just, you leave it and you move on. So a lot of that, obviously carries through to like the fights and when you have to overcome certain obstacles. You might be down a couple rounds and it's either like, all right, I have to make something happen or I'm going to lose this fight. Um, or it's going to end up in the hands of the judges, which we don't want. So, um, you know, having that, I think it's really just like an inner conversation with yourself, and then the knowing, like, you don't really. How do I describe this? So, like when you're in a fight, I'll just use my last that the fight we just spoke about, the champion, the title fight. For me, I had like these conversations with myself in my head where I'm like, it was the fourth round. And if you're going to beat the champion, you have to beat the champion. Like, you either have to take them out or it has to be like very obvious. Like, all right, she like basically killed her. But, if the opponent's tough, sometimes they're almost impossible to put out sometimes. And so, um, yeah, for her, that was my conversation. It's like, okay, either like you have to do something. You have to do something, either take her out or like I knew I would lose if I didn't because it was just such a close fight. And so, yeah, for me, it was like you have to be aware, but then you can't live in it. You have to learn how to, you know what's going on and then like make the split second adjustments in order to, you know, proceed with like how you want the fight to go. So a lot of it is, yeah, just inner dialect, understanding what's going on around you in the fights. Like sometimes people get caught up in the brawls, and then you might have injuries as well. So sometimes it's, believe it or not, we don't really feel the pain so much because of the the physical pain of it because of the adrenaline that's running through us. But But yeah, sometimes, things do hurt. And like if you can't breathe, like that's a whole other thing. Like that'll make anybody quit if you feel like you can't breathe and you're smothered and then you have somebody who's trying to take your head off in the process. Like it can be a little bit it's a lot. But yeah, you just have to you have to learn how to like come back to reality and like not get caught up in the brawls or get caught up in focusing on your injury or whatever the case might be. You just have to stay focused and stay in it, and that's very difficult,
Hmm.
challenging sometimes. Yeah.
Keep your eye on the prize.
Hmm.
We got to keep our eye on the
Yeah.
prize. So you're committed to advocating to end domestic violence. In this space to end domestic violence, what area are you most passionate about and why?
Wow, that's a great question. Can I just say all of it? um, I, that's a really good question. Yeah, I'm definitely passionate all around. But as far as I don't really have like one specific area that I'm in essentially. So I try to fill in the gaps wherever is needed. So if there's an area of which that, my expertise or my knowledge can essentially, whether it's help somebody, whether it's, helping the organization come to a decision on one thing, like I just feel like wherever I can fit in and however I can help somebody, I do that. So I use my platform now. It's sort of like an open door where I help people all over the country. Actually, um, they'll land in my inbox with questions, and then sometimes there've been instances where somebody needs immediate help, and I just help them navigate their process. So actually, that might be where I'm most passionate is kind of being that connector, that person in their most like those critical moments. And a lot of times, believe it or not, a lot of people are not aware of the resources. So that's what I do. And I'll research for them and get them connected to the right people and help them navigate through that as well. So
Hmm. For myself, I my commitment area is normalizing the conversation and not the behavior. It's important to me to create a conversation where, especially victims and survivors, and I say that because victim and survivor, because some people term themselves differently. But it's important for me to really share and talk about this as much as possible because the shame keeps people in those relationships or keeps them from living their full and robust life because they believe that part of them is not worthy to be in the room, be at the table, to access resources or whatever the case may be. And so that is my personal mission. And so I talk about it as often as possible when I'm given the opportunity. And I make sure that I am turning up the volume because in my particular situation, and like many of my friends, our stories are untold. It's, what I call the people that are in the shadows of domestic violence, who aren't familiar with resources, aren't familiar with terminology, all of, the things that are tied to this field. There may be an assumption that it's common knowledge, but it truly isn't in some communities. And so that's very personal to me to be the normalizer of the conversation and not the behavior.
I love that you said that. I love everything you said. Yeah, and it's so important. And it really I find that as well when I guess essentially normalize the conversation as well and sharing my story that how impactful it can be to just be a voice, and it gives hope to others and inspires them to take I guess a closer look maybe at their situation or help them come to terms with what they need to come to terms with. And yeah, I think that's really important. Yeah, I love what you said.
So before we go into our Food is Love segment, what words of encouragement would you share with young Jamie?
That I deserve love, that I'm worthy of love, and that I guess encouraging in terms of like, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm spacing a little bit. Um, Nobody's ever asked me that before. um, yeah, I
So, you have at this point in your journey, you have the ability to look back at the journey, and you made it. You made it. And so there's a point in our life before we experience a lot of things, we're just a sponge and willing to receive information, or in a position where someone can sow some really valuable words into us that can fuel us to make it to the other side. So that's the encouragement I'm referencing at in that point in your life before things took a turn for you. What would you want that Jamie to know?
deciding what I want to say. I mean, I think a big part of it is for me is to follow your heart and don't change who you are to, I guess, fit the mold of what somebody else wants you to be. Like, don't change who you are and follow your heart. And it's okay to be who you are because who you are is amazing and worthy of love and you know, compassion and truth. Like I just, for me, getting through what I went through, man, I'm sorry. It's just I feel like for myself, I always wanted to save people. I always wanted to see the best in everybody, which I still do. I think now I understand like how to utilize that gift that I have of helping people and service instead of allowing someone to break me down so much that I believe the lies and believe everything I'm being told, um, and being under somebody else's control. Like I lost myself. I don't. I mean, I never ever want my daughter to lose herself in somebody else, or for somebody else to tell her that she can't do or be whoever she wants to be, like yeah, and to just always follow her heart and stay true to herself. I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
So let's go into our segment of Food is Love. And for me, this is about the lessons at the table and how food and those experiences around the table really become a great teacher to us. And the first question I have for you is, what food best describes your personality and why?
I love anything like Italian. I love Italian food, so like pastas, like pizza, all the things. um does it just how would it describe my personality? I don't know how it describes my personality. I just love it. I love to eat it. Like, I don't know. It makes me feel happy. I feel like my family, we have a Sicilian background on my mom's side. And so food, like Italian food, like it brings us together. To me, like Italian means family and having like an abundance of food. I don't know. I just feel like yeah, makes me feel like, family, like I'm home.
Hmm. Was there a time in your life when food was healing for you?
Yes. Yeah. I think in a lot of ways it still is. But yeah, food for me is healing. For me, it's something that makes me happy. I also have a sweet tooth, so um, that makes me happy. So, um, but and then also cooking
I'm
with
getting
my
a sense
daughter,
that food makes you happy.
cooking with my daughter is healing. Just doing an activity together, doing something we both enjoy, coming up with, the recipe or what we're going to do. Like, I think there's something special and it bonds us. And yeah.
Does your family have an heirloom recipe that is passed down from generation to generation?
Oh, yes. So my mom's a pastry chef. Um, she, uh, there's a recipe for bread pudding that's from I think it's my great great grandmother that my mother uses now, and so also we have a family owned business in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's called Bouchard's Bakery, and we produce fresh pasta and sauces out of there. And then my mom has a bakery as well, and so she does. I mean, there's a lot of recipes that were like handed down through our family, but I think like the bread pudding is a big one. Is delicious, and it's served with like a rum sauce. Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
I did not know that fun fact
Yeah,
about you
yeah.
and your family
Hmm.
business.
Yeah.
Wow.
Somehow I'm the only one that ended up, you know, in the ring or in the cage for a living, but my family is very yeah, big foodies. My mom and my brother went to culinary school together, and 'cause my brother's been
Oh,
he's like a
wow.
chef since forever. So when he decided to get formal training, my mom was like, you know what, I'm gonna do like they had planned to do it together and then open their business. So they did that, yeah, together, and then gosh, the business has been running for almost 15 years now. So. Mm-hmm.
I love to hear that. So now that we've set this table,
Mm-hmm.
we've had conversation about you, and we heard about um, the memories of food in your family and what food means to you. Let's use this opportunity to bring another woman to this table that has been built. And this is your opportunity to give this woman her virtual flowers. Who would that be and why?
Um, does it have to be a woman? Could it be a girl? Like a younger person? Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, that's easy. My daughter, for sure. Yeah. Um,
Why your daughter?
I mean, she is so incredible. Just a very, like her heart, her soul. She's just a beautiful human being. Who she is. She's kind, she's compassionate, she cares about other people. Um, but she's stronger than anybody that I've ever known. And I get my strength through her. And she's my driving force behind everything that I do, everything. And yeah, I want to give her her flowers because she's, I mean, she's 14, almost 15 now, and just seeing like her heart, just seeing who she is now, like as she's moving into adulthood, like I'm just so proud of her, all that she's overcome and accomplished. And I always say that, like, I mean, I guess like ever since like when we were going through everything, I always reminded her to just always have a kind heart, just always be a good person. And even though bad things can happen, like don't let it change who you are. And it never did. Like, if anything, it made her a better person. There's just something about like, I think she's very like a wise soul. Like she's an old soul. I have always believed that. And she just understands the world differently, I believe, than most kids her age, that she's been able to just, I don't know, everything we've gone through has allowed her to just it didn't, yeah, it didn't change her. Yeah, it didn't change her. Yeah. And she's incredibly strong, and just like all the things that I aspire to be and try to be every day, she's those things.
She embodies that. Well, I am grateful that you and I have had an opportunity to have a conversation and for you to share more about who you are and your experiences and how you've become the woman you are today. How can people stay in contact or learn more about what it is that Jamie Miller is doing?
Yes. So my website's not up yet. So Instagram or Facebook are always sort of the go-to spots. My Instagram handle is at Bad Mama, but it's MMA, and my Facebook is just Jamie Colleen. So yeah, that's always a great way to stay in touch with me, and staying up to date with events that I'm doing. We'll be doing free events all around the city starting very soon, so I'm really excited about that.
And the city being
Philadelphia, yes.
Philadelphia. So you're going to
Hmm.
be doing events for self defense training for
Yes, for
women.
women and youth.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's one thing I actually wanted to share with you, which I didn't get a chance to before.
Yeah,
So when we were
absolutely.
at the ribbon cutting at Mia's place, um, my daughter said she had your husband had said something to her, and she said it almost made her cry, and it's gonna make me cry. But she said he whispered to her that she's his hero, and that just always like got me. Yeah. So thanks, Troy. That was very sweet. That was so sweet. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, that was so sweet. Yeah. So I wanted to share that.
I will be sure to pass that along to him. Yeah, it takes and you talked about your daughter, so I think that that is just very appropriate that she received your flowers today. And like Troy said, she is his hero, and you are the hero to many women and girls. And your story is powerful and impactful. And I encourage you to continue to turn up the volume and normalize the conversation and not the behavior. But Jamie, thank you so much for joining me today at the Stay a While table, and know that you are welcome anytime.
Thank you so much for having me. You're wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you felt the love and connection in today's conversation. Every woman you heard from has faced the impossible and emerged stronger. This is your personal invitation to stay a while longer at TommiV.com. That's TOMMIV.com for more inspiration for your mind, body, and soul. And let's not forget your belly. You're always welcome at my table. Please be sure to subscribe, make yourself at home, and stay a while.